The Mediterranean, seen from above, feels eternal. Its blue waters conceal centuries of battles, ambitions, and blood. At the center of this sea, a small island of white limestone reflects the sunlight like a shield. Malta. Too small to stand out on most maps, too significant to be ignored by anyone who sought to rule the world. The year is 1565. The Ottoman Empire is at the height of its power, under the command of Suleiman the Magnificent, the Sultan who had conquered Belgrade, Rhodes, and Baghdad. The empire stretched from the heart of Europe to the borders of Persia. No Christian army had managed to stop him for decades. And now, his eyes had turned to that limestone island in the middle of the Mediterranean. On the other side stood the Knights Hospitaller of St. John, a military order founded during the Crusades, driven from Rhodes by the Ottomans themselves 33 years earlier. Malta was their last refuge, their last piece of land. And they knew, better than anyone, what would happen if the island fell. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss an episode like this one. Stories that most history textbooks never told. The Ottoman fleet that appeared on the horizon on May 18, 1565, was a sight capable of stopping any man cold. 193 ships, 40,000 soldiers, sailors, and siege engineers. Artillery enough to reduce walls that had taken generations to build into rubble. It was the largest expeditionary force the Ottoman Empire had ever sent into the Western Mediterranean. Commanding this armada was Lala Mustafa Pasha, a seasoned and methodical general, accompanied by Admiral Piale Pasha and the corsair Dragut, the man who knew the Mediterranean like the back of his own hand. Defending Malta were somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 men, approximately 700 knights of the order, supplemented by Maltese soldiers, Spanish mercenaries, and volunteers from across Christian Europe. Their leader was Jean Parisot de la Valette, a 70-year-old man who had fought at Rhodes, survived a year as a slave oarsman on Ottoman galleys, and devoted every day of his life to preparing for this moment. La Valette had no illusions about what was coming. When the Ottoman fleet was sighted, he gathered his knights and said something that few leaders in history have dared to say with such clarity. The only way out is victory. The Ottomans opened the siege with Fort Saint Elmo, a star-shaped stone fortification built at the tip of a peninsula, guarding the entrance to the Grand Harbor. In the calculations of Ottoman engineers, it was a minor obstacle. They estimated it would fall in 3 days at most. It took 31. What happened during that month inside the walls of Saint Elmo defies any simple description. The Ottomans positioned more than 60 cannons around the fort and began a bombardment that did not let up even through the night. The stone walls were pulverized. The defenders slept, when they could sleep at all, on rubble and bodies. Reinforcements crossed the harbor at night in small boats under constant fire, because La Valette refused to abandon the fort before every last possibility of resistance had been exhausted. Drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching this from. Just think, you might be watching this just a few miles from where these events actually unfolded. Dragut, the legendary corsair who had survived decades of warfare across the Mediterranean, died during the siege of Saint Elmo. A stone fragment thrown by an explosion struck his head while he was inspecting the artillery positions. Legend has it that when Lala Mustafa received the news of St. Elmo's fall weeks later, he looked out over the smoldering ruins of the fort and said, "If a son cost this much, what will the father cost?" The father was Birgu, the main city where La Valette and his knights were entrenched. When the Ottomans finally entered St. Elmo, they found fewer than 100 men still standing. Many were so badly wounded, they had been fighting seated in chairs, no longer able to stand. None asked for mercy. None tried to flee. Lala Mustafa, furious at the staggering cost of such a small victory, ordered the bodies of the fallen knights to be decapitated, crucified on wooden crosses. and cast into the sea toward Birgu. La Valette watched the bodies wash ashore, and he responded in the only way a man in his position could. He ordered the execution of every Ottoman prisoner in his custody. The heads were loaded into cannons and fired back into the Ottoman lines. This is where the story of Malta breaks away from any simple narrative of heroes and villains. Because what happened during that summer of 1565 was not a battle between good and evil. It was a collision between two civilizations that believed, with equal conviction, that God was on their side. Men on both sides acted with extraordinary courage. Men on both sides committed acts of brutality that no faith could justify. War, when pushed to the edge of survival, reveals something about human nature that peacetime would rather not examine. The siege of Birgu dragged on for 2 more months of mounting intensity. The Ottomans deployed a weapon known as incendiary hoops, wooden rings wrapped in cotton soaked in gunpowder and flammable substances hurled at the defenders to burn them alive. The knights fought back with fire trumpets, creating walls of flame at the breaches in the walls. The Grand Harbor became so thick with bodies that, according to accounts from the time, the water itself changed color. By August, the defenders were in desperate shape. The walls of Birgu were partially demolished. Gunpowder supplies were running out. Men were fighting through wounds that under any other circumstances would have taken them off the field weeks earlier. La Valette himself, at 70 years old, picked up arms and fought at the breaches alongside his knights. A gesture that, by all accounts, turned despair into something resembling irrational resolve. It was at this moment that the news the Ottomans feared, and the defenders had clung to with almost unreasonable faith, finally arrived. The Spanish relief fleet was on its way. On September 7, 1565, 10,000 Spanish and Italian soldiers landed in the north of Malta. Lala Mustafa, exhausted and with his army decimated by months of battle and disease, made the decision to withdraw. The Great Siege of Malta was over. The Ottomans had lost between 25 and 30,000 men, numbers that remain staggering even today. The defenders had lost the majority of their fighting force. Malta lay in ruins, and yet the island had held. The consequences of that summer reached far beyond those limestone walls. The Ottoman westward advance across the Mediterranean was checked. The myth of Suleiman's invincible army, the narrative that had paralyzed Christian Europe for decades, was irreparably broken. 6 years later at Lepanto, a Christian fleet would defeat the Ottomans in the largest naval battle of the century. Historians draw a direct line from Malta to Lepanto. Jean de la Valette survived the siege. In the years that followed, he oversaw the construction of a new fortified city at the entrance to the Grand Harbor, a city designed never to be taken again. That city was named in his honor, Valette. Today, it is the capital of Malta and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What Malta leaves us 4.5 centuries later is not simply a story of military endurance. It is a question that still has no comfortable answer. What turns human beings, on any side, of any faith, into creatures capable of such brutality and at the same time such extraordinary courage? What drives a 70-year-old man to take up arms knowing he will likely die? What drives 40,000 soldiers to march against walls that have refused to fall after weeks of relentless bombardment? The limestone island still stands. The sun still catches its walls. The Mediterranean still feels eternal from above. And somewhere beneath those stones, in the foundations of the city that bears the name of an old knight who refused to give ground, the answer to those questions waits for anyone bold enough to look for it. If this episode made you think, leave a like. It helps the channel bring more stories like this one to more people. And tell us in the comments, which part of the Siege of Malta surprised you the most? This narrative combines historical facts with dramatized elements. All visual reconstructions were generated by artificial intelligence.